Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Musa, and today I'll be taking you through. Um, I'll be taking you through the entire CSS module for this summer program. But today I'll be introducing you to CSS. If for any reason I'm breaking, if you could not hear me at any point, please just turn on your microphone and let me know, or I'll adjust my microphone as well. So I'll be introducing you guys to CSS. Who among you have heard about CSS before, or who want to explain a little bit about CSS before I go further? All volunteer to explain a little bit about CSS. So my class will be very, very interactive because I enjoy a class that is okay, fine. So Sumaya, please, you can unmute yourself and share.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Happy belated birthday.
Thank
So the little I know about CSS is it's cascading style sheets. And after writing our HTML files, we use CSS to style our files. That's where we write it. We can either create our own file for CSS or we can embed our CSS in the same HTML file. So our work, our HTML file or our work in the browser looks better. That's what. Well.
Okay. So today I'll be covering these topics on what CSS. I'll be sharing what CSS with you. Why do we need CSS? That's like for you to understand the basics and why do we need CSS. And also I'll be talking about how to add CSS and CSS selectors. Then I'll give you a project for the day. So I said earlier, I've been asked to target beginners. So I'm starting from scratch and I'm taking you step by step. So I want to encourage you all to pay attention to detail. And if you have any question at any point, please just stop me and I'll try to answer your questions. So as Sumaya said earlier, CSS is an acronym for Cascading Style Sheets. Okay, so cascading is like a waterfall. It starts from the top to the most specific, and that is the cascading part is talking about the specificity of CSS. But we actually dive into that in the future classes. So CSS, as I said, stands for Cascading Style Sheet. And what's a style sheet? The style sheet is a language that defines visual styles of HTML documents. So as we discussed earlier, it helps you to style your HTML documents. Over the past weeks, you've been working on HTML, right? Wherein you learned how to structure a web page, putting, tags and putting content on a web page, but it was empty and you didn't add any style to it. But CSS here helps you to give styling to add styling to that web page and make it look nice. There are different types of style sheets. We have the cascading style sheet, we have the synthetically awesome style sheet, which is the SAS, we have the less, and many more. But for this class, we'll be talking about CSS, which is the cascading style sheet. And this is the most like the fundamental. You need to know CSS. So we're covering CSS for this class. So why do we need CSS? CSS or cascading style sheets emerged as a crucial solution for web developers who were frustrated with the limitations of HTML in the earlier days of the internet. So developers were so frustrated with the limitations of HTML. Imagine you guys experience, for those of you that were working on HTML for the first time, you guys I know you guys wanted to add style to your pages, but all you could do was to just put the content. So developers in the early days were also frustrated with the limitations of HTML. Initially, HTML provided no means to style content effectively. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So initially, HTML provided no means to style content effectively, leading to uniform and unappealing web pages. As developers sought more creative ways to present their content, the response from this W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium, was the introduction of HTML 3.2 in 1997, which included attributes for basic styling. However, embedding styles directly within HTML cluttered the markup and made it difficult to distinguish between content and presentation. So what happened was they were making efforts towards bringing style to the HTML page or to the HTML. Yes, they provided some tags, like if you want to style, there are some styles that are now not in use anymore. They are depreciated. So they were using some of these tags to style HTML page tags, but it was not effective. So finally, this man, whose name is Hakon Wihumli, introduced CSS in 1996. So this man was the one who, if I'm right, yes, was the one who who introduced CSS in 1996, which allowed developers to separate the styling of a web page from its content. This modularity was not only simplified, this modularity not only simplified HTML document, but also encouraged a clearer structure, making it easier to manage and update styles without altering the content. The separation of concern is similar to how different components in manufacturing are handled, and by specialized team enhancing efficiency and maintainability. So you read through this history about CSS and you learn a lot. So this guy introduced CSS and also helped to arrange your files in a modular form. You learn about that when I start explaining about inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS. So I'll go to the next slides. If you have any questions, please just raise your hand. I'll try to answer your questions. So, of course, CSS is a way to, as I said, to transform the appearance of the web page without changing the underlying HTML. So it means that you can still have your codes, the codes you've worked on before, you can still have them, but then you can just add styles to it. So CSS cannot affect any HTML site, except if you want to like change the structure of the page, then you might want to touch the HTML structure. So you read through this. So how to add CSS to the HTML codes you worked with previously or in the previous classes. So we have 3 different ways to add CSS to an HTML page. One of them is the inline style. As you could see, we have a tag here, which is the HTML tag, and we have an attribute here, which is the style. We have a property, which is the background, and we have a value, which is blue, and we have the closing HTML tag. So inline styling, inline way of adding CSS means you use this style attribute inside a tag, not necessarily not only HTML tag, but any tags. You have the paragraph tags, you have the heading tags, you have different tags, right? So you can add the styling. With this styling attribute, you can add any property. So this one, we're targeting the background, which is blue, which is the background of the HTML content. That means the entire HTML file, and we are turning it to blue. So let me go to VS Code and let's see how this works. Okay. Do you have any questions before I go forward? Okay. This. So let's start with inline CSS. So now we have HTML document here, and we have an HTML document here. We have, of course, you've learned about this. No need for me to explain, right? Who wants to take us through, explain a little bit about the code we have here? You want to volunteer, you can raise your hands. You can raise your hand, then we'll go. Anyone wants to volunteer to just explain the line of codes we have here? The lines of codes we have here. Anybody? Or do you want me to choose? Or do you want me to choose randomly? Or someone wants to go? Sorry? Hello? Well, I'll call by name. Fatma Tajayu, are you here? Ninibet, Fatma Tajayu. Fatma Tajayu, are you there? Do you want to explain the lines of code? How about Asanatu?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Who is this? Asanatu, right? Okay, so Asanatu,
Yes,
would you
sir.
like to explain the lines of code we have here before I go forward? Oh, okay, Fatma Tajayu, understood. So Asanatu, would you like to explain? Would you want to? Don't be shy, just try your best. Any part you want to explain is fine. So wait, are you guys telling me that we are not paying attention when Saidu was teaching? Oh, who is here now? Hello.
Hi, Margaret. We were actually paying attention.
Okay.
To me, when I look at this file, I'm actually seeing the setup of a normal HTML file like we were taught. We were taught it must have the doc type, then the head, and each tag must have an opening and a closing. Like, for example, we had our head that had the title, and then we closed it. Then we went to the body that contained the main components. So we have our H1, that is our biggest heading. And then we closed our body and also closed the entire file with the closing tag of the HTML file.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
ma'am.
Oh, okay. Asanatu is back. Yes. Don't be shy.
It was not. You asked how many lines of code. I didn't have enough data. That's why I'm not getting it clearly. But at least I can. Right. I think it's about 13 lines here.
Yes. I was asking about
Yes,
explaining like maybe lines of code as Sima was explain the lines of codes here. Any tag that you like to explain what's the purpose of the tag there, it's fine.
Okay, about the doc type HTML. So it shows where which type of it how open this DSF Mr. Side Toto.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I know it well. So guys, so be practicing. Make sure you get back to your notes because every class I'll be displaying the codes and getting your input about the HTML code before talking about the CSS. Is that fine? So that will help you guys to practice more. Okay.
So I was not here at the start. Can you please start the how to go about this one? Because I was not here at the start of this one.
Okay. So
Like,
firstly, yes, so we're talking about CSS, and CSS is basically for us to add styles to the HTML pages that you've worked on before. So how you can style them and make them look very beautiful. So this is just a simple HTML code that we have here. So we are now learning how to add styles to them. So if I can preview this for you to see on the browser. Let me just preview it. It's just a simple HTML page that has a heading, which is an H1 tag that says style me in blue. Okay. So we're going to add an inline style to it. So as I said earlier, to add an inline style, we have to target the tags. So now we want to add an inline style to the H1 tag. So we'll target it, and what we have to do is to write the style attributes. So this is the most beautiful part of VS Code. Once you start typing an attribute, it completes it for you. So now, yes.
So, Esma, did you open a new folder to get this one, or?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Do you a folder, a file to get where you? Because I'm not on track where you are right now.
Okay, let me just close this. So what I did is I opened my. Do you all have a laptop? Okay, some of you don't have a laptop, but I opened my VS Code.
Okay.
And so now I opened my VS Code. I now looked for a file because I already have a file that I prepared for you all. But let me say, if you don't have a file, you can create an empty folder, which is new folder, and want to name it, let me say Hasanatsu.
Okay.
Web development. And you now have to come here, file, and open the folder. You search for the web development, which is here. You now open it, and then you have the folder open with the VS Code. So now, if you want to open a file, let me say, if you want to create a file, initially I just spoke of inline, right? So we will come here. This is another way of opening a file. You can come here and say new file. So if you come here, you see new file, new folder, and so many things. So if you say new file, it will be, let me say inline. And you give it the HTML. The HTML, yeah. So now you have to write your codes. So for VS Code, if you just put the exclamation mark and press enter, you get all of the files written for you. So this is so simple for me. I always do this. So so let me change this to inline. Okay. So now we have an H1 tag. Here it says time in blue, right? So now we're going to add an inline style to this. Let me just confirm. Yeah. So we are going to add an inline style. So there are ways we can shortcut, like ask VS Code to write things for you, but I'm going to manually do it. Let me say style equal to. So what are we going to do? We want to change the color to blue, right? So we'll have to use the color attribute, the color property. Sorry. And then we give it blue. Oh, sorry. So the spelling, it has to be C-O-L-O-R because you can't write C-O-L-O-U-R for color. So the spelling is different. We're using the American spelling, but you get used to it. So now if I open Live Server, you'll see that my style is now blue, right? Hello? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well, Margaret.
Oh, okay. Let me just do this. So the style is now blue, as you can see. So you can do this for different tags. So if I put a P tag, which is a paragraph, and let me see. Okay. Yeah. So now if I have a P tag that says hello everyone, and I want to change or give it a style. Let me say I want to do a font size. Okay, style. Increase the font size. So the font size, let me say I give 30 pixel. Don't worry, you'll learn more about this unit in the future, in our next class. So if I open, you see I have a paragraph here. This font size has increased, and you can see if there was no styling here, if I remove the style and get back to the browser, automatically you'll see seeing the size of your letters. Okay. So we go back to the slides. The next way of adding CSS to your HTML document is through the internal styling. Okay. So internal styling, you can add CSS to your styles using the internal styling, as you could see here. Check the notes you see. So let's come back to our code. And now we want to add a style. You can put it anywhere in your document. So we'll open a style tag. You can put it anywhere in your document, but it's recommended that you put it here. Yes, so let me remove this style from here. So now, the inline style actually, it targets only one tag on the file. So with the internal styling, you can target multiple tags on the particular HTML page. So let me say I want to style the H1, right? So I'll come and say H1. I'll write the H1 selector and then I'll add a style. Let me say color and blue. So now, if I open this with a live server, you now see that the style has changed, the color has changed to blue. So now if I have another H1 tag here, H1 tag, and let me say, if I check the browser, see the H1 tag is also blue, because for the internal style, we work with selector. So we are now styling every H1 on the page. So initially, when we were working with the internal styling, wherein I wrote style, and let me see, color, the blue. If I check the page, you'll see that only the first heading tag changed to blue. But the other, see, although this is a H1 tag as well, but just the first one changed to blue. It didn't affect the second element.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. We are not seeing the.
You're not seeing my screen?
No, the display. The display.
Okay. But you can see it now, right?
No. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just see if I can make it side by side for you to just. So
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So you can see now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It's fine like this. So as I was saying, when you're applying styles to your page, now I just explained about inline style. So this is inline style, having this attribute called style, having a property. This property can be anything. It can be a background color, it can be a font size, it can be a width, it can be a margin. You learn more of these properties in the classes. And this is a value. So you see this part of the style tag is the property. You have a column, and then you have a value. This value is associated to the property. So color, we have a blue color. So now we have two H1 on the page, but now you see only one of them is styled blue. And that's because we are targeting we did an inline style just for the first H1. So if I wanted to add another, if I'm working with inline styles, if I wanted to add another, if I wanted to add a color to the next H1, I'll have to copy the same style or write the same style and add it to the next H1. The next H1. So now you see automatically it changes, it has changed to blue. But this is not a perfect way of doing of adding styling. You definitely need to know it because you see it in codes, so it's better you understand it, and you may want to use it for specific styling. But we'll learn about more better ways of styling your pages. So now back to our external styling. So first you add this style tag and write your rules inside the style tags. So now we want to style all of the H1 elements, or all of the H1 tags in the file. So we now write the styling, we now write our rules inside the style tag. So how do we do that? We write a selector, which means we're trying to select all of the H1 on the page. I want to add a style to it. So we've added a color blue. So it's looking out for all of the H1 and it's adding the style blue to it. And let's say I want to style the paragraph tag. If I choose the P tag, and sorry, you have to use a curly brace. So it works with a curly brace. And then you add the property. We'll still go with color. Sorry. So color, let's say this time we want red. So don't forget, it's better I'm making a little bit mistakes with the color, so you get to know that COLOUR does not work in CSS. You have to use COLOR. So now the color of the paragraph changed to red. So if I have another paragraph here, okay, let me add a Lawrence. Okay. So if I add another paragraph here, you see it's now red. If I want it to be another color, I can now change it to green. We'll learn more about colors, how to choose colors, the different type of colors. You get to know this red, green, and blue, the RGB, and a lot percentage and all of that. So now it has changed to green, right? So this is how internal styling works. So we've learned about inline style and internal styling. So now we'll go to the next. Let's go to a slide. We have external styling. So we can add CSS using the inline method, the internal method, and the external styling. So let's see how the external style works. So as you could see at the side of the slide, I have a file called style.css, wherein I have my styling, my rule. Yes, my rules that I want to, or the styles I want to apply to this particular page. So let me take you back here. And now let's add another file. We've had inline.html, right? So we add another file. I'll call it style.css. Don't forget the extension .css because we are working with a CSS file. Initially, you worked with HTML. So when you are creating CSS file, you add the .css extension to it. So now let me get rid of this. Okay. Now we want to add a style to this sheet using the external styling. Now I mentioned earlier about the modular system. So we want to make sure that we have all our styles in a separate file. So we'll have all our HTML in one file, like separating a separation of concern. So I'll not have to see CSS style here and HTML, that kind of thing. So I have CSS HTML codes in another file. So how will I connect this CSS to this HTML? We can do that using the link tag. You guys worked with the link tag before, right? So now this is the link tag. Okay, we have what we call relationship, and that we have to call it style sheet. Remember I spoke about style sheets, right? And I explained about different type of style sheet, which the CSS is also one type of style sheet. We also have the SAS, we also have the less. So now we'll add style sheet. And the next one we have the hypertext reference. You all learned about the href, right? So now we are going to connect this. This is where we are going to link the CSS with the HTML. So let me close the tag first because this is a self-closing tag. The link tag is a self-closing tag. So now I can use a dot to start the path, to specify the path. And then I use my slash and enter the name of the file I want to connect, the CSS file I want to connect with this HTML page. Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now I've connected it. So to test that I've connected my style correctly, let me add a style to the body. The body simply means the body of the page. So let me say the body of the HTML. Let's say background color. Let me just use the background to red. Okay. So if I now do I now open, fine. So this shows that my CSS file has linked correctly to the HTML page because I applied a CSS rule and it worked. So let me remove this. So we've now linked the CSS to the HTML file. So now we have it like this. We are going to try to style all of this using an external style sheet. So now is this external and the internal style sheet works almost the same. It's just that now we are separating the files. So let's target again the H1 and make their, let's give it a background color now. The background, let's give it pink. Fine. So it has now it has now made the background of all the H1 tags, has now turned it to pink. Okay, so this is the way we apply styles. I can also target the paragraphs. Let me use the P, and I'll now let me target them. Let me say their font size. Font size. You'll learn more about the properties. I'll send you resources to study these properties, to learn about them, and you interact with them to just see how they work. The font size, let me say, this is so large, but let me, okay, 50 pixels. So I have now increased the size of the paragraph using tag and also using the font size property. So at this point, okay, before I ask for questions, I'd like to say I'll advise you to use the external style sheets because it's more appropriate to use. You know, internal styling, it's useful for just a single web page, yes, but then external styling is useful as well to do separation of concern and organize your code. So I'll advise us, like when we're working on projects, I'll give you to style your pages using the external styling method. So at this point, do you have any questions before we go further? Any questions? So everything is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So some of us are not free as you are going. I guess every code you typed, you should have like inform us like, okay, have you typed? Have you seen the how it's displayed, or are you just giving us a brief of the CSS? Are we not started with the class, or
I think you have started with the classes. Are
okay?
you guys coding along? Is that what you mean? You are coding along
Yes,
with me?
yes. That's what I'm trying
So
to
what I'll
say.
advise you to do is, well, my own method of learning might be different from yours, but I'll advise you to take a look, watch. Immediately I'm done. That's why I'm recording this
Okay, no
session.
problem.
This one will be
Okay, no
up.
problem. Okay.
So
So
I'll
just have to
advise
pay
you, and you get
attention
the
and get
slides
the
today.
okay, no
Yeah, so I'll
problem.
advise you to pay attention,
Okay,
try to get the details, and then once you get that's why at the end of the class, I'll give you just a small mini project for you to practice what we've learned.
okay,
So try to watch and get the understanding, and then after the class, you now start putting it into
okay.
practice. Okay. So who else have a question to ask? Okay, so we are now going to CSS selectors. So what is a selector? A CSS selector, to be specific. A CSS selector is a way to choose which HTML elements you want to style. So now you'll be having lines of codes. Once you start working on projects, you'll be having hundreds lines of codes. So you want to style them. You want to be specific about which area I want to style, or which div I want to style or position. So a CSS selector is a way to choose which elements you want to style. It tells the browser which parts of your web page to apply the styles to. So now, when we are coding, we told the browser that we wanted to add styles to the H1, to the P tags, because we chose the CSS selectors. So let's see. We have different types of selector. We have the element selector. So the element selector is what we've used. Let me go to the next page. We have the element selector, we have the class selector, we have the ID selector, we have the attribute selector, and we have the universal selector. So now, the element selector. So the element selector in CSS are used to select and style HTML elements based on their tag name. Okay, so you work with tags. So now we are going to style them based on their tag name, their tag names. Yes, just as we just styled based on tag names. So this is the same way you do the element selector. Okay. Okay, so now if you want to style it, let's say we want to add the A, and let's say color, we'll give it blue. Okay, blue is the default color. So let's give it yellow. So now we've given it a yellow color. And who wants to give another tag that we can style? Let's say if we want to style the image tag, but then we have to add like a width or a height. So let me look for an image on the browser and just download it. So this is let me save this image. It's a hamburger, right? I'll look for a folder. So this is the folder we created. So I'm going to save the image here. And now let me come here and create an image img tag and give it a source. And now we are going to look for the hamburger.jpg. So write hamburger.jpg, which is the image we want to add. And then we'll now give it an alt, which is an alternate text. So this alt means like if the image is not showing at a particular time, then you need an alternate text that will show in the place. So if your browser is slow, maybe the internet is down, and you want to show a message temporarily, maybe the internet is not fast enough, it will show this alternate text. So give it a hamburger. And the source, okay, the image as well is a self-closing tag. Yes. So let's check our page. So now we have the image here. Let's say I want to reduce the size of this image, the height of this image, or we want to, let me say we want to increase it. So now we'll come to our styles and come to image. And that we are doing the element styling. Let me say the height. We'll learn about the units soon, but that will be in our next class because I want to take it step by step with you. So the height, let me say we want it to be let me say 100 pixel. So it has reduced because the image actually is more than 100 pixel. So if we want to increase it, we can add like, let me say 700 pixel. So it has now increased. So this is the way we add styling to a single element selector or an element selector. So now if we have like, let me say multiple image tags, all of the same styling will be added to it. So if I copy this and paste this here, the same styling will be added to it. So you see, we have an image with the same style. Don't worry, because you see they're not in the same position, and that's because of the way we have like block elements, we have inline elements. So there are some elements that may have altered the styling, but they have, if you see, they have the same size, the same height, and the same width. Okay. So next, we'll now go to the next one, which is the class select. So this class selector, you see most of it in code. You see most of them. So how is it done? Class selector is done. You have the dots in front of it. So this dot shows that this is a class selector once you are using it. So let me go to the code. So now we have two images. Let me start from here. So now to use a class selector. Let me just comment this out. And we can write the class attributes. Sorry. I'll give it a space. And now we have, let me say, image one style. You can give it any name. Okay, image one style. So you can copy it or remember the name, come to your CSS style, and you now come, how would you apply a style to a class? You now start with adding the dot in front of it. You write the name of the style and you open the curly braces and you now add a style. So let's 700 pixels. So if and refresh, you'll see that we have a style. So these are inline elements. You learn about it when we start working with positions. So you see now the first image tag has a different from this second image tag, and that because we apply the class to it. So let's say we have another image tag here with the same class. So you see, so this image tag that does not have the image tag that does not have the same class with this other image, the styles are not applied to it, despite the fact that it's an image tag. Yes, so the same goes for the H1 tag. So simply, the class selector is there to group elements and apply styles to this group elements. So now if you want to group specific elements and apply different styles to it, you can use the class selector. Let's say we have a div here. Let me remove these images. Yeah, let's say we have a div. And we have okay. I'll just remove all of this. Let me say books. Books, and we have another list tags, and we have like li we have book 2 and book 3. Okay, let's see. So we have a list of books here, and we want to add some styling to this div tag. Let me add a class name. Okay, let me copy this and paste it here. So we have this first div, we have the second div, and we have this for the different books. So let me say I want this first div and this second div to have the same style. Well, in the future, you learn how to style odd numbers, even elements, odd elements. But for this time, you how to style a specific, how to group them. So let me say I want a class name to be here. My books. So let me add the same styling here. Okay, and this I'll say not my books. Okay, so let me style my books. So if you can remember, I told you that you first had to add the dot in front of it, right? And then you now add the name of the class you want to style. So now you're styling my books. And let's say I want to give this div a background color of so let me use the background color property of itself of this. And if we go to the web page, we'll see that both of them have the same background colors, right? And this one do not have the background color because we didn't add the class to it. So this is how we style elements using the class selector. So at this point, do you have any question? Hello, do you have any question? Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, guys. If you don't have any question, I'll go to the next one, which is the ID selector. So the ID selector is used to style the same way to style HTML tags or HTML elements. But the rule for the ID selector, you just have to have just one styling for a specific ID. Like the name of the ID, it has to be just one. So you now use it as we used for the class, wherein we add. No, sorry. So we'll now use it for the class, wherein we added it. In this case, we added the class selector in the two different divs together. But for the ID selector, you just have to add it once. You can't have duplicate ID. So let's say we want to add the ID selector. We come here and say ID. We come into the tag and write ID equal to, and we now write the name of the ID just as we did for the class, but this time we use the ID attribute. So we can give it an ID as well and say my books. But then there is a difference between the class and the ID. So for the class, we use this dot operator, but for the ID, we have to use the pound of the pound symbol. So we have to use the pound sign. So now I've added the pound sign. So if I go to the web page, we'll see that we have the styling applied to the first div. So we now go to the attribute selector. So what's the attribute selector? We spoke about attributes, like you've learned about attributes now in the previous HTML classes. I talked about the alts, these are attributes. The hrefs, these are attributes that are attached to the link tag. We have the source attribute that is attached to the image tag, and we have different attributes that are attached to different tags. Yes. So you can style you can style a tag based on their attributes. You can style them based on their attributes. So sorry, let's come back to this list. Maybe I'll just change this to that. Let me change this to an ordered list, OL. -0. So let's see, this is an ordered list, okay. It now has 1, 2, 3, right? So let me say I want to start from 5, 6, 7. So I want to alter the numbering. So I'll say value is equal to 5. And I do the same for the rest. So now the value will be 6 and the value will be 7. Okay. So if we now go, we now see we are numbering from 5, 6, 7. And maybe I can get rid of this because we're not using them again. Okay, so now we now have we now have a books listed, but we started from 5, 6, 7. And now let's say we want to change the colors based on their attributes, which is the value. So what we'll do is we come to our styling, and I'm audible, right? We come to our styling, we now choose let me comment this out. We now choose, we are targeting the list items, right? So we now choose LI, which is the list items. We write it down and we use a square bracket and write value. Okay, let me just open a curly brace and let's see how it works. So let's change the color to blue. And let's check our web page. All of the color the colors are now blue, right? But let's say if we want to change it based on a specific value. So let's say value equals to 5. So just this one, this first list has been changed to blue. Okay. So this is another way you can style elements using the attribute selector. So if I now copy and change the style of the 7th element, let me say I changed it to yellow. So now it's not even showing properly, but it's there. If I zoom in, you'll see it. The 7th element has changed to yellow. So yes, this is the way we use the attribute selector. Okay. So next we have the universal selector. What's a universal selector? A universal selector is a selector that selects every element on a web page. So let me go back to our web page, the web page we've been working on. And this time, let me remove this and say we have H1 and say my profile. Okay, and okay, let me say about me. Okay, we have a P. We added a line some text. Okay. So we have a paragraph here. So what's the universal selector doing? Now that we've linked the styling, the CSS file, the universal selector is created using this asterisk symbol. Okay, once you open it, and let's say we want to add a style to every element on the page, use the universal selector. It's mostly used to, remove padding, excesses like margins in the entire page, while like creating the format for it, adjusting the sizing. We have the box border property that we use. But for this one, let me say I want to align all the text to center. Let's see what happens. So you see everything has become centered just by using the universal selector. So let me say I want to give a color, a background color, blue violet. So you see everything has changed. And let me say I want to give a color of white. So this is what we have just by using the universal selector. So these are the different types of selectors, and these are the ways we can add styling to our web pages. Okay, so the universal selector is really, really powerful. As you can see, we have margin, we have padding, and we have box sizing. So let me do something here so that you see what I'm talking about. If I have like this, okay. Okay, let me say 1. Let me give it a paragraph. Peter. Yeah, how are you? Welcome. Okay, we'll give it let me give okay. Box 2. And box 3. Okay, let me give them a class of let me say yellow. This one, let me give it blue. Let me give this green. So let's target the yellow, the class with the yellow. We select out the yellow class and give it background color yellow. And let's just give it a bit of padding. Let's give it like 20. We'll learn about the box model, so don't worry about padding. I deliberately didn't explain about this because I wanted to teach you about the box model. Then from there, you'll be able to understand how to use padding, margins, and borders. Background color, blue. Padding, which is 20 pixels as well. We target the green. We have a padding, which is so we'll also learn how to write styling properly, so you will not be repeating yourself, because this is not a good way of writing codes, repeating yourself. Okay, so now we have 3 boxes with different colors, but then we can see we have this margin here, this space and everything, and which is not nice. So most times developers, we use this universal selector to just remove all margins and paddings on the page. So margin, we now say 0. Let's see what will happen to get to the page. See now, everything fits well. There's no space around. And we can also do the same for padding and all of that. So this is the way we use a universal selector sometimes. Yes, but you get to know it more as we go along, as we learn along, okay? So these are the different types of selectors. We also have what we called chaining selectors and combining selectors. So which means there is a way you can apply styles to your pages by combining selectors together and chaining them. That I will want us to work through it in the next class, because I didn't want to exhaust you all, since today is the introduction class. So this is what you'll be building and sending me a screenshot of it. You have like a P tag. You look at it and build your design. So as the developers, you have to, when you'll be working, they'll give you a design. They'll give you either, sometimes you get a Figma design. Well, that is helpful because with that, you'll be able to check and see which stylings have been applied to that design. But there are also circumstances where you just have to see a picture of the design and you have to work on it. So now, once you look at a web browser, once you look at a website, the first thing that comes to your mind, you start knowing that what are the elements or what are the tags that are being used. For instance, now we are seeing this is a PowerPoint. So let's assume that this is a web page. And you will say, okay, from here to here, these are div elements, because we learned our different sections. And now you see links, these are links, and then you see, okay, when you have learned how to lay out your elements, maybe how to use the flex box, how to use inline styling, how to use, You now see, okay, these are being laid out using this property, or these are being, this is a scroll bar. So you'll be able to say, okay, no, these are what have been used. So this is what I have to use for different sections. So for this project, I gave you a screenshot. So you now look at this and say, okay, this text, this first text, the colorful background, what is it? Is it a heading? Is it a paragraph? Is it? And then you now build it, and then you see that we have different text, different colors. You now build it and send me a screenshot of it. And if possible, you can send me your codes, because yeah, you can send me your codes basically. But by next class, I want to see what you've done, and then we'll learn more in the next class. So this way I'll stop for today. If you have any question, you can ask me, and I would discuss. I think we spent like 1 hour 25 minutes. We tried. So do you have any questions?